Good afternoon, everybody. My first question is going to be, who here has never had an oyster? Okay, that's not so bad. We're doing all right. The reason I'm ranting about oysters is because this rant is actually called the S word. I do stands, masterclasses, catering all around the country with oysters. And I have to stand at my market stand sometimes and have people come to me and go, Jesus, look, it's oysters. They're like snot. And I'm like, oh, seriously, how can you call these beautiful bivalves snot? I mean, it's all about perception. For me, these things are opalescent orbs of pleasure, and I'm not the only one who thinks that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shuck one for you now. Shucking is what you do with oysters to get them open. These creatures have been around on the planet since before grass existed. So just kind of for a minute, imagine what that was like. I mean, look around you right now. There's a lot of grass here. These things are heroes of evolution. And they also happen to be one of the most nutritious creatures you can eat. Not just creatures, but foodstuffs. And the head of the Vegan Society said that if he was going to eat any animal protein at all, it would be the oyster. The reason for this is that they contain such a sort of power-packed amount of nutrients. They've got zinc in them, pound for pound more than liver or steak, which is what allegedly puts the lead in the pencil. But aside from that, they contain a natural source of dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter for pleasure. So the oyster is very much maligned. People say it's disgusting, it's snotty. I hate having to say that word. There's some other S words that people kind of liken it to when you swallow it whole. And that's actually something you really shouldn't do either. I mean, look at this. You can see the size of this. There's nothing else on your dinner table that you would swallow whole at this size. You're going to be crawling across the grass by the time I've finished. So basically, these things need to be chewed. If you swallow them whole, I kind of liken it to taking a really good wine, holding your nose, putting it in a shot glass, and just whacking it back. It's an absolute waste. If you chew an oyster, you get this whole flavor and texture profile. You get the creamy, opalescent orbs of pleasure, and then they carry on, and you get this lovely kind of bite at the end when the gills come through, and you get a lovely aftertaste. If you just knock it back and try and swallow it whole, it's essentially like trying to drown yourself. So you don't want to do that. As was mentioned earlier, there is a statistic that I heard about recently whereby the British public had voted on their least favourite foods that they were, not even least favourite, ones that they wouldn't try. Now, that bugs me in the first place, because how do you know if you haven't tried? And I think above liver and anchovies, two things that I really like, was oyster, number one spot. 47% in men, rising to 57% in women. Now, as a woman who loves oysters, I kind of took that personally. So when the guys asked me to do a rude health rant, I kind of thought, brilliant, I can address this right now. So any of the women who've never tried them here, please do come to my stand. Don't pretend to try and come get a free one, by the way, if you have had them before. Okay, yeah, sorry. I can see it. So I would be happy to give someone who's never had one before a freebie. And these ones are fantastic. They've been blind tasted as the best in the country this year. They're from the Camel Estuary in Cornwall. So you've got one of the top vineyards at the top of the valley and the oysters at the bottom. And it's a lovely sandy estuarine environment, and they pick up all the lovely nutrients. We call it merroir, which is akin to the philosophy of terroir with wine. So personally, I'm on an absolute mission to convert that market share of 57%, because if they haven't tried, they don't know. And I personally have a kind of, I would say, verging on 100%. It's just the really strict vegans who I have trouble with, conversion rate. And as I mentioned, the head of the Vegan Society said he would eat oysters if he was going to eat some animal protein. Not only the fact of their nutrition, but they're one of the most sustainable creatures out there in terms of farming. You can actually farm them in a nature reserve because they're positive impact on their environment. So my whole mission is to get more people eating them, because it will actually help our environment. They're a keystone species. but they're functionally extinct in the wild. So that's something we have to address as well. So if we're eating the farmed ones, then of course the research is going to be there to look after the wild stocks because they don't want to lose the farmed stocks as well. So essentially, the S word is up for interpretation, but I would say that sexy should be there instead of snot. What do you think? Okay, well, please come by and try an oyster a bit later. Thank you very much.